What's going on, guys? Ryan O'Toole back here again, giving you guys another ranking. With Avengers Infinity War out in theaters this weekend, I felt it was the perfect time to do an updated ranking on all 19 Marvel Cinematic Universe movies from my worst to my best, with Infinity War in this ranking. I always love to do these MCU ranking videos of all the movies because lists can change or they could be the same, but it's just fun to talk about the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially with a release like Infinity War, the biggest MCU film to date. But before we get started, guys, let me know your rankings down below in the comments section. Talk about your favorites, your least favorites. Let's talk about these movies and get hyped for Infinity War out in theaters this weekend. Coming in at number 19, down at the bottom, is Iron Man 2. Iron Man 2 is not a terrible movie, it's not a Batman and Robin, but this is the worst MCU movie in my opinion. It was more of an Avengers setup movie than an actual Iron Man sequel, but Robert Downey Jr., great as Tony Stark, Don Cheadle, great introduction as the new Rhodey, Scarlett Johansson, great introduction as Black Widow, but the villains, Whiplash and Justin Hammer, were just really forcing it, and just not a really compelling story. Iron Man 2, not terrible, just the worst. Coming in at number 18 is another bad sequel, Thor the Dark World. Very dull and boring, but there is some cool funny parts to it, and Alan Taylor's direction just wasn't that good. Chris Hemsworth, great as Thor, Tom Hiddleston, Anthony Hopkins, but a really dull and bad villain in Malekith. Just really boring and wasted. Once the movie ends, you just want it to be over, and Thor the Dark World, just one of those dull, boring sequels. At number 17 is The Incredible Hulk. Edward Norton, great in the movie, but it's really different than Mark Ruffalo's. I really enjoyed the action sequences in here, but some of the characters really were unnecessary, like Liv Tyler, really bad love story, but William Hurt, really entertaining, The Abomination, really cool villain. Some parts of the movie just doesn't connect anything to the MCU, just the black sheep. So Incredible Hulk, cool moments. Number 16 is a controversial place-in, but Iron Man 3 is at number 16. This is a very divisive movie in the MCU. Shane Black's direction for the movie is very cool at parts, but really the story was just jumbled. And Robert Downey Jr. gives one of his best performances as Tony Stark, but the villain aspects of this movie really let me down. The Mandarin, the twist is just awful. An actor named Trevor, really? And Guy Pearce as Aldrich Killian's not terrible, but he's really cliche. The Extremis stuff is so unnecessary. But I really enjoyed the story of Tony being without the suit, being himself without it. And there were some cool parts to it. I like the kid as well. At number 15, we got the badass wizard Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. This is another one of the more overrated MCU movies in my opinion. Just found this movie to be really boring at times. But Benedict Cumberbatch is great in the role as Doctor Strange. The visual effects are top-notch and amazing. But the villain is just terrible and forgettable. Mads Mikkelsen as Caecilius. Some cool parts to the mystic arts. And also the Ancient One is great. Mordo too, very interesting character. We'll see what happens in the future with him. But really, Doctor Strange is just a boring movie at times to me. At number 14 is Thor. I really enjoyed this movie. I thought I wasn't going to like it because I don't know anything about this character before the Avengers. But Chris Hemsworth, he nails the arrogance as well as the likability of Thor. I just love the fish out of water aspects to the film on Earth. But other stuff on Earth I was let down by was Natalie Portman, Kat Dennings, just really annoying characters that could have been better. But really the Asgard stuff is where it's at. I love all the Asgard stuff. I love the introduction to Loki. I love Odin. Anthony Hopkins is great. And Heimdall, played by Idris Elba. The Frost Giants were pretty interesting at times. But Thor is a good fish out of water comedy and a pretty good origin story. At number 13 is Spider-Man Homecoming. This is another one of the more overrated MCU movies in my mind, but Tom Holland, great as the character, great as Spider-Man and Peter Parker. I love the high school elements and the Vulture, Michael Keaton, one of the best MCU villains, obviously. What really disappointed me about this movie was just the stakes. There's not any stakes, they just play it safe. The action really isn't that intimidating. The ship sequence you saw in the trailer, you were spoiled by it. And just some parts, I really enjoyed the comic stuff to this movie. How he had to swing without buildings and just learn how to build himself up. And there wasn't a lot of Tony Stark in this movie that I was hoping they would. And Robert Downey Jr. is very entertaining. This movie, I just don't find it great. At number 12 is another one of those divisive MCU movies, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. This is a sequel that I was really looking forward to. I enjoyed it in a lot of aspects, rewatching it a couple times, but really it's nowhere close to being better than the first movie in my personal opinion. I really enjoyed the character development in this movie. It's way better than the first movie. Yondu is the best part of the movie, hands down. Nebula gets a lot more to do as well. And the Guardians just dealing with a lot of things. Star-Lord dealing with his evil father and ego. Kurt Russell, great villain. And the Sovereign, the Golden People, didn't need to be in it at all. And some people think this is better than the first movie. I don't think so. I love the ending to the movie. At number 11 is Avengers Age of Ultron. I was, again, hugely looking forward to this movie. The trailers were amazing, but really it's false marketing, false trailers. Ultron was not close to the intimidating villain we thought he would be. But really, the comedy here is really good at times. And Scarlet Witch and Vision were the best new characters. And Quicksilver is the worst MCU hero. So forgettable. Once he dies, I didn't give a shit, really. And I love the action in the movie. The Hulkbuster scene was awesome. And seeing them come together in Sokovia was really cool, too. At number 10 is Captain America, the First Avenger. Really underrated movie in the MCU. And just a great origin story. Chris Evans proved everybody wrong in this role. The action in World War II looked really awesome. An awesome villain in the Red Skull, and an awesome love story as well. Just the best in my opinion. It is a little bit formulaic at times, but honestly it didn't bother me at all. Red Skull, some people found him not interesting. Yeah, sometimes, but really he's a really cool villain. So all in all, First Avenger did everything for me. I really enjoyed this movie. Coming in at number 9 is Ant-Man. I never think Ant-Man would make my top 10 list, but this movie was just so much fun. Paul Rudd, so charismatic, so funny in the role as Scott Lang / Ant-Man. The action sequences are so creative in this movie, of Ant-Man shrinking down, the Thomas the Tank Engine stuff, as well as him jumping through keyholes of doors and pipes. I would have loved to see Edgar Wright direct this movie, but Peyton Reed did a great job doing it. Michael Douglas, another great character. And also Yellow Jacket, very generic villain, but he's okay. So Ant-Man was so much fun. At my number 8 spot is Thor Ragnarok. This was a really fun movie. I love Thor Ragnarok. Just Taika Waititi coming in, creating his own vision, and just making a blast of a movie. The 80s vibe in this movie is just so good. The Guardians of the Galaxy-like feel with the humor. I love Thor in this movie so much better. We see his true powers come to life. As well as Hela, an awesome villain, Cate Blanchett. Valkyrie, awesome new character, love Tessa Thompson. And Korg, the funniest character in the whole movie, Taika Waititi. Sometimes the movie gets bogged down by exposition, and sometimes the CGI doesn't look perfect. But Thor Ragnarok, looking beside that, this is one of the most fun MCU movies. At my number 7 spot is the film that started it all, Iron Man. Back in 2008, Jon Favreau nailed it with this movie. And Robert Downey Jr., where would the MCU be without him? Awesome origin story, great action sequences, just a generic villain, but sometimes it does get bogged down with all that stuff. When he's captured by the terrorists and just creating the Iron Man suit from scraps is just so damn good. I freaking love Tony Stark, and just Robert Downey Jr.'s role in this movie is what skyrocketed him back into being a A-list celebrity. At number 6 is Guardians of the Galaxy. This is the most rewatchable MCU movie in my opinion. This movie completely surprised everybody. It's one of the most fun MCU movies. Chris Pratt, awesome as Star-Lord. Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Bradley Cooper, Vin Diesel. This team is just so freaking good and so lovable. And it's bogged down by a villain in Ronan, but other than that, just the soundtrack is great, the action is great, just the character moments are phenomenal, and the dialogue as well. Now we're in my top 5, guys. Let's go with my top 5. Coming in at number 5 is The Avengers. Now, I would have loved to put this higher on the list, but just I found 4 movies to be more invested in, but The Avengers is just one of the greatest blockbusters of all time. Seeing all these characters come together is a nerd's dream come true. That third act is just so freaking perfect in New York. I just love the setup to this movie. It had an awesome villain in Loki, played by Tom Hiddleston. And just seeing all these characters, Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans, Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Scarlett Johansson, Jeremy Renner. Samuel L. Jackson, so many A-list actors coming together and just fighting Loki and the Chitauri. This movie's just so epic. How could you not love The Avengers? Coming in at number 4, I don't have the Blu-ray to show you because it's not out yet. That is Black Panther. Black Panther was just so freaking good. I love this movie. Ryan Coogler's direction was perfect. And just the whole world of Wakanda, this African technologic city that's completely shielded from the outside world, is so freaking amazing. Chadwick Boseman, all the characters in the movie, Okoye, Nakia, Shuri, awesome characters, but Killmonger is the best, one of the best MCU villains. Michael B. Jordan stole most of the movie for sure. It's just really awesome to see this amazing world in Black Panther. At my number 3 spot is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. The Russo brothers first start to direct it in the MCU. And Winter Soldier, how could you not love this movie? It's badass action sequences and completely different from the first Captain America movie, making it into a spy movie. That was so brilliant. This made me fall in love with Captain America. Just, he's my favorite MCU hero. And the twists and turns that this movie brings with Hydra and S.H.I.E.L.D. is so riveting. Robert Redford, one of the best villains as Alexander Pierce, and the Winter Soldier, Bucky Barnes, so badass. Great introduction to Falcon as well, and I love Black Widow in this movie as well, so Winter Soldier is so badass. For a while, this movie was my number 1, but it has dropped down to my number 2. That is Captain America: Civil War, the biggest of all MCU movies we've seen in the past year or so. All the Avengers fighting against each other with the Accords. Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther, Spider-Man, etc., etc. The airport scene speaks for itself, and the story to this movie is riveting. And Zemo, one of the most underrated MCU villains, and just the conflict with Cap, Tony, and that final act is so damn heartbreaking. Civil War, it's an amazing movie. Just would have loved to keep it at number 1, but something else dethroned it. But I freaking love Civil War. And my number 1 favorite MCU movie is Avengers Infinity War. I've just seen this movie for the second time today, and it's a masterpiece. I honestly do mean it. This movie is just riveting from start to finish. There's not a single moment in this film you have to breathe. Thanos is the best comic book villain I've ever seen. He is so layered, so interesting and scary. The action in this movie, so many stakes happen in this movie, so many twists and turns you don't see coming, and it's a great movie. Infinity War is hands down my favorite MCU movie. So there you have it, guys. That was my ranking of all 19 MCU movies. What are your guys' rankings? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you guys as always for watching this ranking, and if you guys liked it, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe today for more content. All my social media links are in the description down below. Click that notification bell on your way out, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!